On the
Okay, the
pre-show.
pre-show has
This is a hot
started.
mic. The hot mic. The mic is live now, so whatever you say, you better be able to stand accountable for it.
Very good way of putting it.
Yeah, because it's on tape now, so you can't get around it.
And not
Even though it seems like if you can get around it these days, 'cause they killing people on video and they still beating the case. So
and
I
not
don't even know if video is enough. Yeah, I don't know if video is enough anymore.
Okay,
just
Twitch has
another
accepted the stream.
okay.
Which,
And just a
which,
reminder, if I could, just a reminder now, I don't think anybody's going to be swearing, but Think Twice Radio doesn't care, but WBNY cares very much. So,
Okay, we got it. We got
yeah.
it.
YouTube has accepted the stream.
YouTube has accepted this. Man.
Facebook has accepted the stream.
I don't even know what a swear word is anymore.
Just hold on. Just hold on one sec. And a reminder to put it on the Peace Center link.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, can you see the timer?
No.
You can't.
No.
How about now?
Oh,
Can you see? Now you can see it?
And that's just to let everybody know once it comes to like 56 minutes or something like that, I will be reining it back in and, just to finish off the show, etc.
Finish off the pre-show and start the real show. That's what you're going to do. Yeah.
Well, the real show is going to be momentarily.
Okay, so tell me when I should restart the timer.
Yeah, you can restart it now.
Okay, and when it says on the air, you are on the air, okay?
Thanks. Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, being recorded at Think Twice Radio in the home of the future, also the home of our friend and producer, Richard Wicca. Thank you, Richard. And we also thank our friends at WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative radio station. WBNY is 91.3 FM coming out of Buffalo State University. We thank you so much at WBNY. And when I think of thankfulness, I think of our Indigenous friends and indeed our BIPOC friends who, no matter how much people have been oppressed and victimized in so many ways, there is still such a spirit of thankfulness. People who know that thankfulness is the attitude that gives us the strength to persist in spite of everything. So I want to acknowledge that we are on stolen land stolen from the Haudenosaunee, from the Onondaga or the Seneca people. And we appreciate them so much. They start every event off with a Ganonyo, which basically they thank the people who made the gathering possible. And then they thank Mother Earth for giving us everything that we need for a good life here on this planet. And thank all the living waters, Mini Wachoni, water is life. Thank all the wonderful plants and medicinal and nutritional plants of all kinds, and the trees that without trees, where would we be? They help us in so many ways, seen and unseen. And that the animals of all kinds, the swimming, crawling, four-leggeds, and the flying creatures, and then thanking all of the different phenomena in our world that we see, and also in the sky world, Brother Sun, Grandmother Moon, and the whole sky world, and of course, the Creator and the love that animates it all. And so then after they would say that, all of that, then they say Nyahweh, and then the people say Nyo. So I'll say Nyahweh.
Yo.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm very thankful. This is a show very much about thankfulness, because we are thankful for the life of our dear friend and brother, Chuck Culhane. So I'm very grateful for the people who have joined now, and then we'll be talking and we'll be celebrating Chuck, in the years to come and in the time to come. But we'll start right off with this show. And so I'll just go around in the same way as a talking circle as, again, the Haudenosaunee and the Seneca do go counterclockwise. So we'll go. So Jerome Wright, welcome, Jerome, friend of the
Thank
show.
you.
Thank
Yes,
you so much. So, and let me give you your proper introduction with all your co-director of the New York State Jails Justice Network. So important to Chuck as well, and as well as the HALTsolitary campaign of CAIC, which is the Center for Alternatives to Isolated Confinement. And so thank you so much. And friend of the show, and now you have your own show. So we're glad about that too.
Yeah, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Vicky. And yeah, thank you. I'm a friend of the show, long time guest and participant and listener. And as a result of that, and your unctions, I have my own show, the Wright Report, Edutainment for the Community, on Tuesday. So thank you. And as you shouted out, I want to thank Richie Wicker, our man on the one and twos, who without this wouldn't be possible. So yeah. Thank you, Vicky. This is a humble time right now. Yeah.
Thank you, Jerome. I'm always grateful to be in company with you. And Dr. Majadi Baruti, Reverend Dr. Majadi Baruti, who is an organizer, wonderful organizer with Push Buffalo, and is such a chaplain in many states, and also with Chuck, for Chuck for so long. So thank you so much, Majadi, for joining us.
Absolutely. I'm Reverend Dr. Majadi Baruti. I am a climate justice organizer with Push Buffalo, who will be hosting the celebration of life for our beloved Chuck Culhane. He worked with me as a comrade on climate justice issues. Then he became a friend, and then I became his chaplain in the latter part of his life when he was dealing with some very serious issues that are to be expected from someone who has gone through so much. It's like he's lived 3 and 4 lives, and it's like an incredible human being. So to honor him is an honorable thing. So
thank you, Majadi, for coming and for all your work. And last but not least, Donna, talk about perennial activists, people, caring, loving people with the courage and the conviction to share all your truth and love. Thank you, Donna, for coming.
Thank you so much, Vicky, for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to be on Talking Peace. Tonight, kind of extra special because I love Chuck, and I'm grateful to be here and to lift him up, even though I know he would be saying, "Oh, come on, cut it out," because that's just the type of a gentleman, and he was a gentleman. He still is and will always be to me in my heart. So it's an honor to be here and to be with my brother in the struggle from another mother, Jerome Wright, and to meet the Reverend Dr. Majadi Baruti by Zoom. And thank you, Richard, for allowing us this opportunity.
So, I can't help mentioning that I want to say, I think it was certainly it was not more than a month ago. I think it might have been right about a month ago that we did a show with Chuck. And when the three of us, means Jerome and Donna and I, were on with Chuck, because we try to keep it to not more than 4 people on the show. So, and where we really did get just a little smidgen of the thankfulness and the honor and praise that he deserves. And so I'm going to say, we usually do this thing on the values next. So I'm going to say, when we think of Chuck Culhane, what are the values that come to mind when you think of Chuck and who he was? So, Jerome?
Think of Chuck and who he was. What were the values? Man, and it seems funny because when were on the show the last time, you asked that question, and I'm gonna say pretty much the same thing because not only did he agree with me that night, but it is what Chuck was. It's about humanity. Chuck was the real, a quintessential human being.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I say quintessential, to me, Chuck, you look up human in the dictionary, and his picture should be there as one of the definitions because he was a humane, you know, he was a pit bull in advocacy, but he was one of the most humanistic men I've ever met, both inside and out. You know, me and Chuck did plenty of time. We did time together, and I hate when people say he didn't change because he did change. He evolved. He
Yes,
became.
Come on.
Oh,
Say
He
it.
became he became more and more human. You know how sometimes we get older and we get younger and dumber? He became wiser and more humane every step of the way. And his resilience, in spite of everything that was involved with him, his health, the system, just everything, he still remained human, humble and human. Again, a pit bull when you need him to stand up against injustice, whether it be the death penalty, whether it be anything. He stood for righteousness and justice. And
Sure.
if that ain't the definition of a real human being who God created us to be, then I've been reading the wrong books and serving the wrong God because Chuck was the epitome of that. And I don't care what anybody said about his past. That man, like the brother Majadi Baruti already said it. I know Chuck, I don't know, probably half my life, and I still feel like he lived more lives than I could ever live.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
able to reinvent himself and mature and grow. You know, that's the last thing I'm gonna say because I want everybody to hear this. This is what Chuck represents to me. I learned that growing old is inevitable if you can live, but growing up
Mm.
optional. That's a choice you have to make. And Chuck made that choice, and he did it well.
yes, he did. Thank you so much, Jerome. Reverend Majadi.
Yes. So thank you, Brother Drum. That was that was it, man. You nailed that, brother. You nailed that. So there's a lot of irony in my life as it relates to Buffalo. I was born in Chicago, right? Went through all kinds of issues. We lived in severe poverty. We moved to the suburbs. My mother met a man who is now he's my dad. I call him my dad, right? He was a man who was formerly incarcerated for literally a crime he didn't commit. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time in the right area of Ohio, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what ends up happening is inside of the joint, as we call it, inside of the jail, inside of prison, he had some brothers that hipped him to knowledge and information and how to uplift himself, right? My dad's a pretty man. He's very pretty. He's like a ridiculously good-looking man.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he was younger, he would be really ridiculously good-looking. And so there would be brothers that would be trying to come for him in different ways. We won't get into the specifics of that. But while he was in there, some of the older cats would like hold him up. One of the ironies is that I have a couple of correlations to Buffalo, New York, even though I've only been here 3 years. One is that the radical anarchist thinker Martin Sostre, who lived here and had a bookstore here called the Afro-Asian Bookstore, part of his work while he was in prison as a political prisoner was to make sure that the brothers and sisters had books.
Right.
My dad was a beneficiary of that, which caused him to come out of the jail, and he entered my life when I was 14 years old. I am now 56 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to go one of two ways. I was going to either go to the disciples and probably be shot, dead, or in jail, or I was going to go to the revolutionary consciousness. And I went to the revolutionary consciousness. And then Chuck as well engaged the process of reading and studying himself as a man who was basically a political prisoner, right? He would come out, he would deal with Attica, and several other folks. He would participate in protests against the horrible carceral state.
Always did.
And so all of this connects for me as a black man in Buffalo, a black man who lived in Birmingham, Alabama, Charlotte, North Carolina. I was in Brooklyn for a couple of months, Youngstown, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio. And I'm like, okay, so I come to Buffalo, and I got some other connections. I won't get into the depths there, but I come to Buffalo and I find out that I'm connected here without having lived here before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there's a couple other lines there, but I won't get into those. It's like, so for Chuck, for me, as a man who fought not only for Mumia Abu Jamal, but other political prisoners and the brothers and sisters at Attica, that meant a lot to me. Right. And when he would talk to me about his past and who he was and how people rise to become a phoenix, you know, they start one place in a fire, they're burning, and then they become this beautiful phoenix and become this angelic being. And that's who this man is and was. And he participated with me on some really powerful interactions with power here in Buffalo as it deals with climate justice. And so I'm so appreciative, and I had the opportunity. He signed me up as his chaplain when he was in the hospital a couple of times, when he was in the hospital. And I am honored to have served a man who was so powerful and so beautiful. You know, there was a time when brothers could say to each other, "You a beautiful brother." You know, back in the day, we could say that, you know, and it was cool. Nobody had an issue with that. And I would say now that Chuck, that was a beautiful brother. That's a beautiful brother. He's still alive because in African spirituality, he's still with us, right? So that's where I'm at.
Thank you. So that appreciation, that beauty, that connectedness, all beautiful values. Thank you so much, Majadi. And Donna, what did you say? What are the values you think of with Chuck?
Love.
Yes.
One of the fruits of God's spirit, love. Chuck loved everything. I mean, the air that he breathed, looking up at the clouds and the trees and the flowers. He loved humanity. He loved people whom he never met. He would always ask about my daughter, how's your daughter doing? And encouraged me to keep fighting and not give up, because he said, after all, I was on death row. And look at me. They let me go. That gave me the hope when you just don't know, when I didn't have anything else to hold on to. I met Chuck maybe 13, 14 years ago at a Prisoners of People 2 meeting. Mm-hmm. Chuck was everywhere that somebody needed somebody to fight and advocate for them. After I became the organizer for Rap Up here, he was my number one fan. I don't care what I asked. Chuck was always right there by my side. If it meant carrying boxes of coffee to an event from Tim Hortons and setting up a table, or just being in the midst of them. Like, you know, Jerome and I, we kind of road dogs when it comes to this. And it wouldn't be complete without Chuck on board. And he was funny. He was compassionate. And when I say love, he had the love for cats. And when I think about everything he went through, he was a cat. He had 9 lives.
Come on.
Chuck had 9 lives. I mean, I called him an icon. I used to tease him that he was my boyfriend because, you know, I was out there. I was single for a long time until I found out that the lady next door was baking him chocolate chip cookies, and I'm not a baker. So, you know, I just, all right, Chuck, but we're still cool. I mean, he would get on the bus. I know he wasn't feeling well or didn't feel up to it, but I can count on one hand the times that he told me he couldn't come with me. Going to Albany, he would go through the halls with me the best of his ability. He had that knowledge, that experience. he'd run down on Sean Ryan with me. If we were in Buffalo together, right over there in the building, the Push building where he lived at. We were in Ujima Theater one night, and Sean Ryan was there. I bet he regrets coming there that night because Chuck had him in the corner.
Let's
As little as Chuck was, when I say he was a bantamweight fighter, Chuck was ferocious. He backed Sean Ryan up in that corner. You could see he was very uncomfortable, more uncomfortable than I could ever make him. So Chuck is my ally, my friend. I relished the times that he would call me, ask me to pick him up because we were going to an event. Times when there was nobody but Chuck standing in the front of the holding center on the coldest, most miserable of Wednesday nights. He was there.
Yeah.
I felt so bad one night I joined them, so it was the two of us.
Right.
Freezing our tookers off. But that's who Chuck was. Chuck was love. He didn't discriminate. He didn't see color. He didn't see disability. He just saw human beings, and he believed in his heart and his mind that we're all created equal. Everybody's going through something. So let's give a little grace. I will never forget.
No.
Never forget.
Of course. No, so I want to say I totally, usually I say truth and love as the values that I think of because I just do think of them all the time. And as you said about Chuck, he was so loving. He was so very loving and compassionate and generous. He never had any money because he gave it all away. He would be the first one to go to give you, even though he didn't have money, and then he'd also be looking for some money sometime too, because as soon as he had it, he's giving it away. Plus he wanted to do so many things for his activism, which was a burning thing for him. So I loved it when you said, Majadi, about the Phoenix, because the Western New York Peace Center, you may not even know this, that we gave Chuck the Phoenix Award. We initiated the Phoenix Award for Chuck. That was his award. And we did give it afterwards. We gave it to the families of the victims of the massacre, the 514 massacre. So we did give it afterwards after we did, but it was initiated for Chuck because we wanted to give him an award, and none of them were quite the right. That said so much. And I want to say truth and love means he was a truth teller. Didn't matter the risk to him. Didn't matter that he was on parole for a large amount of time when he was still in front of the parole office, in front of the holding center. And especially he and God bless Monica Lynch. So they were, some of us, we were there different times. Sometimes lots of us were there. Sometimes a few of us were there, but they were always there. And a lot of times it was just the two of them holding it down for years in the cold, in the snow, in the wind tunnels and everything. So anyway, so that's a little bit on the values that we think of when we think of Chuck. And I want to especially mention that, I'm so glad that you mentioned it right up front about, so for people who are listening, who are remembering Chuck, we want you to know that, thanks to Push, Push is really hosting, generously hosting a gathering on it's Sunday the 7th. Sunday the 7th from 1 to 3 on the former school 77. It's 491, is it?
429 Plymouth Avenue.
429 Plymouth Avenue is where it'll be, and there'll be food. It is a potluck, so you're welcome to bring things, but it's a no worries potluck. There'll be plenty of food. There won't be plenty of parking, so we really urge people to carpool. But anyway, that will be a time where we'll have some, there'll be some awards that he's gotten. There'll be some pictures. There'll be a wonderful slideshow that Majadi's putting together, and music, and maybe a jam session. And, we'll be together there to share that. But so on that note, so that's December 7th. And for the people who are hearing this on the Monday, let me just say, if you're hearing this on Monday the 8th, there'll still be another opportunity to honor Chuck, besides to each other informally, but there'll also be a gathering that really will be a more formal gathering at Riverside Salem in the spring as well. But anyway, on that note you'll get your opportunities to tell stories or things you want to share about Chuck or your feelings about Chuck. So I want to go around again and with sharing, what do you want to share of like the life of Chuck, what you want to share? And I think starting with some of what he experienced in the course of his life. So, anyway, so Jerome, to you.
I'm going to try to be a gentleman myself now and pass the mic to Donna, the only woman on the panel other than the host, and let her go if she wants to. Now, I mean, if she's not ready, I'm not trying to force anything on her, but I just really felt in that spirited thing of saying, that is my move, man. Let ladies go first and do the chivalry's not dead. I'm not going to be the guy to get right.
Preach, brother.
Talking circle. So we're going around in a circle.
I will go the way you said. I put that open, but if it's going to break any spiritual protocols, I definitely don't want to be a part of that. So I will.
No, we don't want to break the cipher. So Jerome, I would prefer that you went first anyway.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. No, sure.
I get, it's the Haudenosaunee. It's the Haudenosaunee way.
No, it's no problem. Listen, this is the way we should be doing it, if that's what they say. I mean, not a problem. And if we just stole the land, and I don't mean we by, pejoratively us, then at least we can do is honor their traditions, and I have no problem with that at all. Thank you for correcting that. I'm just trying to be chivalrous so that, people remember we can do that too. We ain't lose all of our scruples either in this stuff. So anyway, so as far as Chuck is concerned, I can tell you story upon story, laugh upon. I mean, Donna highlighted it. We were road dogs together, and I'm telling you, the hardest I've ever laughed, and without being under the influence of something, let's put it that way, was those times when we took those rides and we gaggled all the way. It was like being in a car full of kids, like a high school road trip. And none of us were high school age, I can tell you that. So it was really the most lighthearted. And that's what it is. Yeah. Chuck can go, if I say he was a real human, he could cry one minute, fight the next, laugh harder than anybody else, and laugh at himself, because I wreck you. And he would laugh at himself and come back at me. But so there's so many stories like that. But I guess the thing I really wanted to express about Chuck is that you know somebody so long, you don't even remember when you met them. And that means you've been together so long that we've had so many milestones that first meeting, although it was precipitated, those milestones, is lost in the memory because it's just been so long. And I was trying while I was here to remember our initial encounter inside, and then out when he was down at the holding center, he would be there when nobody else would. And there were times that Monica couldn't be there because she had obligations, not that she didn't want to be there, and that if there was any other way, and he would be there by himself. He would be there by himself. He marched in a rally for me against parole, past the parole office, while they were in there seething and taking pictures and screaming bloody murder. They were livid. And he walked right by them. Free Jerome Wright. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. When you're a good human being and you stand on principle, man, they can't touch you. And that's what he was. He was untouchable in that way. even I don't know when he passed, but I got a text from him on November 9th at 12:59 a.m. in the morning, about 1 o'clock in the morning. And all it said was, love you, brother. He spelled it Budder. Love you, brother. And I text back, love you back. And I am so blessed and grateful that was our last interaction, because it symbolized our relationship. Reaching out, showing love to each other regardless of situation and circumstances. He was probably knowing he was at his end physically and emotionally was about to pass. And he still reached out to tell me he loved me. And I should have been reaching out to tell him I loved him first. And that's what I mean by Chuck. He was never last. He was always first. And he was never the one to quit. He was always the one to stand. And we should find a way to erect a statue down by that holding center of Chuck. And I really mean that. I think we should, as a cause, and talk about this at his memorials, that we take up a collection. I mean, we ain't got to have, a Leroy Neiman, which, but we need a symbolic statue of Chuck, so that they can see him every day and be mad about it. And then he can stand there and say, I'm still going to stand up for justice in your face. Amen.
Come on, brother. Amen. Amen.
And I mean, Ashe. Jadi.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to see if I can capture someone here. So Chuck had a dance partner towards the end of his life. I have a group called Poetry Shines. We do poetry and music collectively. It was created by my fiance, Little Mama Shanette. And we performed at Push Buffalo. And this is a surprise. She's looking at me all cockeyed like, what is you doing, man? But we visited him at the hospital when he was not doing so well. I was his chaplain, and she went with me on one of the occasions. And this is this beautiful woman. It's the live podcast on here. This is Little Mama Shanette. She's the founder of Poetry Shines.
Yeah.
And at the latter part of his life, he enjoyed a show with us at Push Buffalo. You want to talk about that a minute and tell him how he danced with you?
That's it. We were jamming that night, and it was beautiful. And the Reverend decided to go dance with one of the young ladies, and I saw Chuck's beautiful blue eyes, and we danced. And yeah, it was great. It was beautiful. And also, when we went to see him in the hospital, he pushed his walker. When he saw me, he pushed his walker aside and started doing his little dance moves there.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and I had to tell the nurse. I said, you see him, he getting grown, huh? And the nurse was mad because he wouldn't dance with her. So I felt very privileged that Chuck decided to dance with me. And he came to one of our performances after that and had a great time as well. He was definitely a joy for us.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, this his ability to experience joy, even surrounded by pain and nightmares. In conversation, he told me about some of the things that was going through his head. I can't tell those because, as a chaplain, I have to keep that private, right? But we go through nightmares. We go through shadows. There's shadows around us all the time. This man went through the shadows, but still brought light to other people. And I think that's what's so beautiful about what you all are describing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How much light he brought to other people, even as he was dealing with shadows inside of his own self.
Right.
So that's about it. That's about it for me right now.
Thanks so much. Thanks so very much. Donna?
I'm jealous that you got to dance with Chuck. Little mama. But
You got plenty of good time with Chuck.
Yes, I did. I won't complain. So many memories jump into mind. One in particular, I think this was before the pandemic. Jerome, Chuck, and I were on our way to Elmira, and there was a big protest in front of the correctional facility. And a former correction officer, his name was Jimmy. He had retired, and he was an old cat too. And he was out there with us. Chuck smoked cigarettes, and he's the only man I ever put up with smoking cigarettes. Anybody else was a deal breaker, but Chuck, I tolerated that. Chuck was on the side of the street where the facility was, smoking cigarettes, and they told him he had to move across the street. You could wait. He was spitting nails. He was so mad. He was cussing them out. Oh, yeah, what? But he stood out there in the cold with us. On the ride down, he had to get out. Every time the car stopped, if we stopped at the drugstore, Chuck had to get out smoking cigarettes. Right. So here's Jerome. We don't have time for that. Hurry up and get in the car. He gets in the car. The GPS is sending us through the South towns. Now, we, as people of color, don't usually travel that route. So we're in the car, 2 African Americans with Chuck. Mm-hmm. The old white man.
Come on, sis.
And I am praying, look, don't let us get pulled over because they're going to think that we kidnapped this man. We're holding him against his will. And I know what Chuck was going to say. He's probably going to say, no, this is my brother-in-law and this is my wife. We're all family here, or something crazy like that. But the whole ride, I mean, he's looking up at the trees and the sky and everything. Things that, well, I took for granted. And I'm like, for real, Chuck, that's really white of you to be noticing the sky and the trees and the clouds, and we're down here in this neck of the woods risking our life. But, you know, never, I can honestly say, there was never a dull moment when he was on board. I mean, he would get phone calls from individuals who were incarcerated as far away as California. Right. Right. They were in San Quentin or Folsom or any institution that they were on death row. He would get calls. They were his comrades, his friends, and he would put them on speaker. And even though they didn't know us or probably would never meet us, we would engage with them. That's who he was, loving, sharing, caring about every little thing. I don't think he took anything for granted. If he came to a meeting, he always had a snack or something to share. And I remember the last HALTsolitary meeting that we convened a couple Saturdays ago. 2 individuals dropped him off, and the woman baked the most delicious cupcakes for us. Chuck is always going to be alive in my heart. And he gave me a book. He was very, very giving. Even though he knows I'm blind in one eye, can't see in the other, he gave me a book, The Green Wall. And I promise, Chuck, I'm going to read that book. It's only like 50 pages, but I'm trying to free some people right now, just like him, and even more so now because I hear him in my ear. Don't give up, girl. Yes, you got it. You got something to say. Somebody is listening. Don't stop.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, you're so right. You know, there's so much to tell about Chuck. And so I want to say a little bit something about what he went through and what he still managed. So one of the things, so just to be clear about what he experienced, as well as I understand it, that he had, you know, he'd done an armed robbery, so he was incarcerated, and he was being transported with 2 other people who were incarcerated. And so one of them, little did he know that one of them was going to make a break for it. For when they were stopped at a gas station, and the one made a break for it, you know, grabbed one of the guns of one of the corrections officers, and so then they both one of the corrections officers and this person who did the shooting died. Chuck was shot in the back of his neck. He had a bullet lodged in the back of his neck, and because they wanted to blame somebody, and so felony murder. They got him for felony murder. Here he was innocently just being transported, and somebody is shot. He is also shot, but they get him on felony murder just to blame him, put him on death row for that. And he was friends, and this is one of the things we've been talking about, so over the course of his being on death row, and afterwards to get out again, the people that he contacted, went the gamut from Pete Seeger to William Buckley, who he had a long correspondence with. And Pete Seeger came, he was his best man. He and June License were the witnesses at Chuck's wedding when he was still incarcerated. And Pete Seeger, who is well known to many, maybe not to some of the younger people who were listening, but Pete Seeger, who's an icon of every kind of a peace and social justice movement, had his last public appearance was at the Western New York Peace Center annual dinner. And I need to say that Chuck, as he got in touch with you on the Sunday, and he was talking about how he's going down. I'm failing, I'm sleeping all the time, I can't take care of my animals properly as much as I want to. But he went to the Peace Center annual dinner, and he had a great time. He was in rare form. He ate well. How people sometimes have a spurt really before they pass, before going on to the next journey. So that night he was lively. He was happy, and he did bring. He knew how to bring the joy. He knew how to bring the joy, no matter what else. And I also just have to mention when India Cummings and that whole tragedy of her death, and by actions that would shock the conscience, per the Department of Corrections. They were horrified, and yet nobody was ever held accountable to the way that she suffered. I'll never forget how Chuck went running after her mother, after we had a lot of protests, running after her mother, to give her some money and to just comfort her, and just to, his loving heart. And last, I just need to say, he really, as you said about advancing, he mellowed even more. His love was even more pronounced, because he had a lot of anger because he went through a lot of stuff. But over the time that I knew him, which is the last 18 years, it was so, to see the gentling and the even ever more increasing love that he had for people. So I'm so grateful to have you all in this circle. So now, some more stories or things, that you want to share about Chuck and who he was, who you saw him be. We didn't even mention poetry or anything. So Jerome.
He had so many lives. He had so many lives. This would have to be like a series every week for a couple of weeks to get on the side. We ain't even going to try that. We know that. But I do want to say something that just hit me. And would you ask me, how do you want to identify Chuck? Chuck and Justin, my son, had one ability that we've been talking about all night, that I've had this phrase for. And Chuck and Justin showed me that joy is not seasonal, it is spiritual. It comes from...
Come on.
Preach! I'm trying to preach here, bro. Pastor, I know you're on. I know you're on. I'm giving you a night off right now. You got the night off. I'm going ladies, but I am telling you, man. They show me every time that no matter what's going on, good, bad, or indifferent, no matter how good they feel, good, bad, or indifferent, that they have a level of joy that is spiritual. It doesn't, circumstances and situations do not dictate it. It is that spiritual joy that I think we all try to find, that they found in a way that I can't ask Chuck, but I'll be talking just tonight because I need that recipe. But that's what he was. He was joy personified, and all of us know different dark secrets about him. I mean, he did some confession with the pastor, but we didn't been in some dark places together, me and him ourselves. So we all know that there was clouds over him, but that silver lining shine through regardless. Anytime he's in pain, he's come to things and tell me he couldn't hold his bowels the way he wanted to, but he showed up anyway. He said, if I had to put a diaper on, I would be here. Now, who would say that? Who would say that but somebody who knows the pain and degradation of life and want to be the light of that? Don't want that darkness to fall on. No, you know how some people become their trauma? He was so far away from his trauma with that joy and love. Yeah, that's what I mean. Why he redefined himself. Because I remember some of the resentment, and it was righteous in his resentment. Now, wasn't like he was just freestyling. He had a reason,
right?
And it amazes me now thinking about it, how people have no reason can go off. And here's a person who has every reason known to man that was able to change his spirit. Yeah, joy. Well, that's what should be on his grave. His grave thing. Here lies joy that was never seasonal, always spiritual, right? Something like that.
Yes, so beautiful. Majadi.
So, we went on I deal with climate, right? I deal with the climate justice issue. And what people don't know is that climate is connected to everything. There were environmental justice issues down in Alabama, where I lived for 11 years, with the prison system. They were nightmares. They were entire nightmares, right? The prison system, the folks are the tax money goes to rich people. I mean, it was like really bad. Everything's bad about the whole carceral state. It's just foolishness, right? And so he came on this, we call it rolling heat. One of our members came with this idea about going to these various organizations that were pushing against a piece of legislation that would save us a lot of money on our gas bills, like an unbelievable amount of money, right? Making our lives better. It would move us towards safer processes for energy, for our homes. And Chuck came with us, right? I had some snafu with the buses, but he got on the bus with us. And for some reason, he was focused on the grocery store tops. They were part of this problematic 4-5 groups. And he came on, and I gave him that microphone, and he ripped them in 58 pieces. I was like, woo, woo. I was like, man, you better go to preach this, brother. I was like, he burned it down. I was like, holy cow. His little bitty body emitted so much spiritual fire.
Right.
This tiny little guy.
Right.
My fiance loves talking to him about his pretty blue eyes and how sweet he was and everything. And like all this flame came out, and it's rage. It's I use the term, it is righteous indignation.
Sure.
At injustice. That's a term I use all the time when I'm preaching, right?
Yeah.
Righteous indignation. I think Brother Jerome was alluding to this idea.
Right.
Like, you're in the right space. It is a God-born rage against that which is wrong. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about how TOPS, like, it's supposed to serve people, it's supposed to feed people, and yet they're pushing against the people. And he just lit it up. I was like, God, dog it. I didn't know he had that much energy in him. And he rolled, we went to 5 different geographies across Western New York, and he stayed right with us. He's been to Albany with me. I mean, this cat just didn't stop. He had this indomitable spirit, this unbreakable spirit, and brother spoke to joy. And that is the essence of our resistance work against that which is evil, whether it's the carceral state, climate justice, LGBTQ justice, poverty, food sovereignty. It has to be rooted in a rage, a beautiful rage that can light up, not only to illuminate which way to go, but also to burn down that which needs to be burned so that we can build something beautiful. And Chuck has been a part of that. And I'm just like, I can't get enough of how much he's given to Push Buffalo, how much he's given to me, how much he's given to my sweet fiance, Lil Mama. It's just a lot. He's given a lot. And I'm like, again, I can't get over how many things he's done. I keep digging, I keep finding more stuff. I'm like, holy cow, what kind of man is this? He's a man of God.
Right.
He was born of creation and he brought creation forth. We have an elder with Push Buffalo that says, I am recreating myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought of Chuck like that. He was at some point in his life, he recreated himself to be something else. And that's just beyond beautiful. Beyond beautiful.
Phoenix. Donna?
Chuck had a special connection to Albany. Every time we would go to Albany, he would talk about the times that he lived there. His family was still there. And even though we really didn't know his family per se, he made you know his brother Billy by talking about his brother. How Billy would wreck every car that he had. He pulled you into loving his sweet nephew, Jimmy the Crusher, he called him, because Jimmy had terminal cancer, a kid, and your heart breaks when you hear of anyone having cancer, but especially a child. He made you love this individual even more by just talking about him and telling his story. I prayed for the little boy. I often asked, so how's the Crusher doing? Oh, the Crusher's doing fantastic. His face would light up when he would talk about his family. Even when we did the radio show together at the Western New York Peace Center, that day he mentioned his mom. He said, today is my mother's birthday, even though she's gone to glory. He talks so fondly of his mother and the things that she used to say to him. He had a way of telling a story, pulling you in, ingratiating you with his sense of humor and his compassion like nobody else. I bestowed the label, and I don't like to give people labels, so Reverend Doctor, I'll probably never ever call you that. Please forgive me. Okay. Yeah, okay, because, that's between me and God. But I called Chuck an icon.
Come on.
Never in all of my 70 years of living would I imagine that I would come in contact and meet and love the people that I've come in contact with, like Chuck, advocating, the comrades that I've come to know and love and call family. This is the family that I've chosen, not the family that God gave me. Right. So Chuck was the epitome of an icon to me. I can't say anything bad about him. And I never, ever will. And if I hear anybody else say anything bad about him, hey, you got a problem.
Say it. Come on, sis. Come on.
I got to say, thank you so much for that, for all of those memories. I want to say one thing that's been such a joy in these past very short time since he passed. So they're calling it the 14th is the date I'm seeing that he went on to the next adventure. But anyway, in these days, it's been a great joy that I've received a lot of the pictures that I've sent on to you, Majadi. And I want to see the one that really, there's so many great ones. There's so many ones where you just see, so much of him. He's very present. He's always present. But my very favorite picture is a picture of him with Kai. So this is the son of our beloved Dare Brian Irwin, who's a lawyer. He and Kamali Leonage, another lawyer. So they as a wonderful couple, just so beloved, and they had this boy Kai. So this is a picture of Kai. It's about maybe a 3-year-old or something, possibly 4, and Chuck is with him, and he looks. So it's the happiest I've ever seen him look. And there's plenty of pictures of Chuck looking very, 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 very happy. But between the fact of how much he loved Dare, I want to say, prayers and love to Dare. Dare has been battling cancer for, I'm going to say, about 2 years now, if not longer. And he and Kamali have really had their work cut out for them. And Kai is I don't know exactly how old. He just had a birthday, so I think he's maybe 12 or something. But anyway, he, this picture, the joy of this beautiful young child who, 2 people so beloved to Chuck, he looks so happy in that picture. It's just a joy to see it. And back to, he was so connected, certainly at the Western New York Peace Center, where he lived after he got out of incarceration. He lived with June License and Roger Cook for a while. And then from there, he ended up living at the Western New York Peace Center when we had a building at Genesee and Bailey. Was that had been a dentist, God bless Tom Potts, Dr. Tom Potts was a dentist, and he had given that building to the Western New York Peace Center to be, the site, which we did end up selling that building and living off that money for a while. But it was a 3-story building. So Chuck was living there, and certainly the Peace Center, he considered the Peace Center family. He ran a task force, prisoners' rights task force, for years, off and on, so his connection there is so deep, but also to Push, where he lived, to Ujima, where he was such a fan of the theater, just so many, and every criminal justice group around. So certainly Free the People, God Knows, CAIC and the HALTsolitary, all the, Prisoners Are People too, any of those, and all the death, as we were saying, working against the death penalty. He was so focused on that. And poetry, he was a poet. So any kind of a poetry reading, he would flock there. He was just connected to so many communities, different lawyers who knew him well because of the legal work over his case. Being especially, as I was talking about Dare and Kamali, but also the Leonard Pelletier, all the efforts for Leonard Pelletier, he was very, very involved in that. And Mike Kuzma, who was very involved in that, so was Dare. Both of them worked very hard for Leonard. Thank God he's out now. But anyway, so listen, we're almost out of time. So I want to keep yourselves to one sentence, because we have to tune off. So just one sentence you want to share around the table. Jerome?
On this December 23rd, let's again celebrate the life and legacy of our comrade, a warrior, hero, an all-around great guy, Chuck Culhane. For my people! Let's go!
So that's yet another opportunity to celebrate him. Majadi?
Yes, this man was love. He was the epitome of what love is supposed to look like. Love in action. And I want everybody to come out December 7th. Push Buffalo, 429 Plymouth Avenue on this Sunday, December 7th. What is it, 1 to 3, right?
Right.
Sis? 1 to 3. Y'all come on out, and we're gonna celebrate this brother. We're gonna celebrate this cat. That's what we're doing. It ain't a bunch of mourning. We're gonna be celebrating them.
No, celebrating beautiful life. And Donna?
Up to coin Chuck's phrase, for my people.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Well, I want to say I cannot thank you all enough for all that you really brought Chuck's spirit right here to us, in us, with us. And I'm so grateful to each one of you for all the work you do, for all the love you give. And to him, we're so grateful. So I want to say, again, thank you so much. This is Talking Peace. And together we've been Talking Peace with Chuck, Talking Peace in truth and love. Thank you all so much. That was great. That was so great.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Waging words of peace. Waging words for peace. Well, I'll bring that book, and so I could either come tomorrow